Welcome to the Perrysburg Podcast, episode 41. I'm your host and Perrysburg resident, Kim Newlove. Today's episode is an interview with Michael Richardson about Perrysburg Living Magazine. If you are new to this podcast, welcome. The Perrysburg Podcast is an informational podcast for prospective, new, and current Perrysburg, Ohio residents. We talk about what's in Perrysburg and why people like to live here. You can find the show notes for this episode on perrysburgpodcast.com. Michael Richardson is here today to talk about Perrysburg Living Magazine. Episode 6 of the Perrysburg Podcast was about sources of information in and about Perrysburg. Michael's publication, Perrysburg Living, made that list. I think it was number 6. It was right there in the middle of the list, a list of 10 resources. You could say that this episode is a follow-up to episode 6. If you are interested in moving to Perrysburg or you already live here, check out Perrysburg Living Magazine. And if you didn't hear episode 6 of the Perrysburg Podcast, go ahead and check that out sometime too. Just go to perrysburgpodcast.com and click on episode 6. In this episode, Michael does a great job of sharing his background so you know just who's publishing Perrysburg Living Magazine, what makes Perrysburg Living Magazine a great resource for our community, opportunities for you to contribute, how to get a copy of the magazine if you are not already on the mailing list, details about his publishing team, Perrysburg Living's 2-year anniversary, and more. We've got quite a list there. We cover a lot in this 30-minute interview. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Michael Richardson. Hi, Michael. Welcome to the Perrysburg Podcast.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me today.
My pleasure. We met about 6 months ago, and I love what you're doing with the Perrysburg Living Magazine, so I'm happy to have you on the show today.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to talking.
Yeah. Well, let's get started by having you explain a little bit about yourself. Who are you, Michael Richardson?
Well, thanks. Hopefully that's not too complicated. First and foremost, I'm a dad, and that is my favorite thing that I wake up every day and end every day with is being a father. That's actually what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I'm still growing up, of course, but my kiddos, Benjamin and Madeline. And so a lot of what you see in that publication is from a guy who simply appreciates what it is to try to appreciate your family. And so that's first and foremost about me. But I'm actually a resident of Waterville. I'm a worship leader at Grace Church here in Perrysburg, though. And so most of my day, every day, is spent bouncing back and forth over the Maumee River between these two communities. When I'm not working through the publication, a big part of my life, in fact, my entire adult life, I've been involved in music ministry at various churches. And so being a member and a worship leader at Grace Church is a really important part of getting to know me and what I'm passionate about and what I love to do. I love music. I love family, and I love the Lord. And you swirl those all together, and I'm usually smiling.
I can attest. That is correct. Every time I see this guy, he is smiling for sure. Now, as we get started talking, I definitely want to focus on this Perrysburg Living Magazine, because when I did a podcast episode earlier on, when I just started the podcast, I was talking about sources of information. And I think that the Perrysburg Living Magazine is a good source of information for prospective, new, and current Perrysburg, Ohio residents. Can you tell me a little bit about, for somebody who's looking to move to Perrysburg, why would the Perrysburg Living Magazine be a good resource for them?
I think what it stands for and what it is, so someone answers the question that it's really just about celebrating the best of our community. And that's not meant in a way to suggest that something that's not in the magazine didn't make the cut. It's just there is so much here to unpack. Every family you see on that cover is a real family that lives here. And so that's what I think of when I move to a community, is the people. And so every month we just celebrate somebody who actually lives here. And there's somebody you could get to know. And I hope that through our pages, seeing who they are and what they do, learning a little bit about them, reveals a bit about the community that you're looking at, but just shows you somebody you may have a connection to. And I would say you likely have a connection to through shared interests or activities, the dynamic of your family. That's one of the things that I find so interesting and intriguing, is that month after month, we see people doing all kinds of things, but there's almost always at least one common point that we recognize there. And that's kind of the whole idea, is bringing us together as a community. And so if you're looking to move here, or you've just moved here, I hope that you will find this to be a great source to find things that are positive. And that's our goal, is to simply share the good things that are here, knowing that we'll never cover everything, but that in of itself is exciting.
There are so many things going on in Perrysburg. It can be hard. You don't want to be the newspaper, but you also have your MO. And I respect that you're trying to keep a family-friendly resource coming to our homes. For anybody who is thinking about moving to Perrysburg and, of course, wouldn't be on the mailing list for this, how would they get a hold of this if they're not already living here?
Our mailing list is private. However, anytime someone reaches out to me, which happens every week, which is quite humbling, and they'd ask to be added to our mailing list, I'm always happy to do that. The publication is completely 100% sponsor driven. So the businesses that you see on those pages are telling you a lot about who they are. One, they're demonstrating their services and their products, which is very important, but they're also showing you that they care so much about serving you and your family that they want to be part of sponsoring this positive opportunity to bring families together. And so that sponsor base is what keeps us going. But when someone reaches out and says, hey, Michael, this happens, a common scenario, I've been borrowing a copy or seen it here or there, or I had two sisters email me and say one's getting it and one isn't. No one needs to be upset. No one needs to start a family war. Just let me know where you are, send me your address, and then I add folks to our mailing list as soon as I can. And sometimes it can take a couple months before we can get someone on that list, but we'll get to you for sure if you reach out.
Thank you for sharing that. That's good information for anybody who's currently living here as well.
We have limitations like anybody would on what we can do and where we can reach, but my goal is to keep expanding, and I've been doing that. But it's fun to be able to hear from people that have a desire to be receiving the publication because they've been enjoying it some other way, likely from a friend or neighbor or a family member who's getting it. And my goodness, the very least I can do is work on my end to continue to try to expand what we're doing. And if they show interest, I want to honor that and get a copy of Perrysburg Living coming to their mailbox monthly as soon as possible.
What do you think for a current resident, somebody who's been living here, maybe they're a little newer though, up to 12 months, what kind of feedback are you getting from them about their favorite thing about the Perrysburg Living Magazine?
I don't want to overuse the word, but I'm very humbled by the types of things that people share with me. The contact information in the magazine is my contact information. My personal cell phone number is in that magazine. And I have never had anyone use it in any way other than in just the most thoughtful, polite way, which you want to talk about, where should I move my family? I will say, as somebody who's put his personal information out there, that's a great indication. It's a great place to live or be associated with. So people are quite respectful. But people share all kinds of things about the publication. I think people appreciate that it is family friendly. It is something that anyone of any age can pick up. You're not going to find anything politically charged, anything divisive, anything involving arguments. That, again, first and foremost, being a dad, that is so important to me. And I have youth who have reached out via their parents, or even met kiddos at Vacation Bible School I've never met in my life, who I have said, hey, are you the magazine guy? And talked about how much they enjoy the magazine. I mean, so again, it's just overwhelmingly humbling that people take the time and are noticing. But I think people really love the families. They really enjoy meeting these families. That was part of my goal. And being able to pursue this was to just get to know a family every month. So people talk about that. So it's people first and foremost. Getting to see the actual people who live here, that is the true gem of this community. For example, one of my favorite pages is our pet page. Getting to know other people's pets. You wouldn't believe how many hundreds of submissions we have for pets. It's just, you just can't help but smile. But people love to talk about their pets, seeing things they recognize. I mean, just another chance to celebrate local restaurants, local shopping venues. I've met people who didn't know, for example, the 577 Foundation even existed. But they've seen some of the things that they've submitted to our publication, which I'm grateful that they do. And so it's just, we're busy people. I mean, that's a reality of life. We're going 1,000 miles per hour in 1,000 different directions. And sometimes you just need something intentionally that's put in front of you to say, here's some good opportunities to connect. And so the number of things that people reach out about, the list is lengthy. the commonality is that for whatever reason, this stopped them and caught their attention and got them to see something either for the first time or in a different light enough to engage with it in a different way. And so I that's perhaps a broad way to answer your question, but really that's the common thread, is that people are pausing and saying, "Oh, I'm seeing this in a new way for the first time," and that's exciting. As somebody who also needs to be slowed down sometimes in life and have a new light shed on things.
Thank you for that answer. I know it was broad, but it's a good one. I like that people are reaching out to you. I like the pet section, I must say. There is a kid with a pet turkey in here. That's pretty
It's
cool.
amazing. Lizards, snakes, cats, dogs, horses, chickens, turkeys, things I never expected to see in the magazine. And people need to trust me when I tell them all the backlog submissions we have, which we will get to. There are other animals that I didn't even know you could have as pets, and they're all legal. I'll put that out there. But it's as important part of the family as anything. And again, that we can celebrate it and just share it in a very safe, fun way. It's just exciting to me.
I would describe this magazine as fair and upbeat. I think when you and I met, we were on the same page when it came to what we're putting out. I like to publish a fair and upbeat podcast. Your publication is fair and upbeat as well.
I appreciate that. We really don't have an agenda per se, other than we just want to share what people want to share in the community. Our writers are our readers. Anyone in the community can submit anything they'd like to the publication. It also includes our, some of our sponsors. We have a great list of expert contributors who like to provide their thoughtful approach and advice on everything from how to train their dog to how to finish woodworking. We've got great things in there, some really great tips that I think are meaningful. But it's truly whatever people want to send us from the community. What our goal and objective is just to vet that content to make sure it is family friendly and it's not containing politics or anything divisive. It's like what you might do online through social media without the comment section. And so you can share things without fear of having to put a disclaimer on it, or somebody maybe using that information or responding to it in a way that might make you uncomfortable or be inappropriate. You can freely share what you'd like here, knowing what will be around it and how it will be presented. Consistency is really important to me. And then I think people are enjoying that. I think they like the fact that they can talk about from how I met my significant other to what our kids like to do for fun without somebody using that in a way that was never intended. That's important to me.
Avoiding politics and being salesy, I think, is important. I don't think you're selling things necessarily, but there are ads from sponsors. I mean, full disclosure, I'm looking at this and there's things that I would not otherwise have known about. For example, somebody's going to be selling bison at the farmer's market in the spring. I had no idea. So that's in here. I'm learning things, even though I've been here for like 17 years. This is great.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, I've lived in Northwest Ohio, and specifically, I've lived in Waterville for 19 years now. I consider myself pretty well versed in things that are both, in the town where I live, and also, again, much time I spend in worship in Perrysburg. I know both areas like the back of my hand, I guess you could say, but there are also things that are new to me every day. And that pursuit is fascinating to me. The fact that even though I intentionally try to be very aware of things that are happening in these two communities, I consider both of these my communities, I learn something new all the time. And so, again, if you're a new family, that can be daunting. Hopefully, as you're saying, our publication can help with that a little bit. But even if you've lived here your whole life, I'm pretty sure there's going to be something you come across, perhaps, if not every issue, close to it, that maybe you didn't know about before. And all these little hidden gems that are in our area, that's what I want to uncover. That is what I want to highlight. And it starts by just other people in your community having a passion to share them as well. And when someone throws something on my radar I haven't seen before, I smile even more than I normally do, I guess.
I appreciate that after 2 years of publishing this magazine, you're still curious. I think coming from a place of curiosity and wanting to understand things is a healthy place to come from. So keep up the good work, Michael.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Now, in the very beginning of the Perrysburg Living Magazine, there is contact information and submission deadlines. Can you talk a little bit about what you're looking for when you put that in there? Who's supposed to contact you and why the deadline?
As I kind of already mentioned, the majority of our content that we put in every issue and is things that people submit to us, whether it be a recipe or our feature family, their pets. Certainly, we have no shortage of those submissions. But oftentimes, most people are not concerned about when something gets into the publication. For example, if I'm going to share how I want to do yoga exercises, that doesn't necessarily have to be in May's edition. I'd love to see that in whenever it can be. However, we want to be sensitive to the fact that someone may share something, particularly like on our calendar events. Maybe I want you to know about a 5K that I'm sponsoring, or maybe I want you to know about a specific event that has a specific date. We want to share our deadlines so you understand that we work about a month ahead. And if you want to see that in, for example, our May edition, you need to make sure that gets into us by April 1st. And so we just want to make sure that people always, it's very nuts and bolts, but we want to have within the publication itself the parameters within which our timing works, so that, again, this can be used by the community for their place to share what matters to them. And so that's really what it comes down to. And also helps our business sponsors, when they're also thinking about things that they want to share that are timely, whether they're hosting an event or they have something specific to their needs or what they want people to know about. Again, it's just meant to be a good utility source for everybody.
An example that I can see is the What to Do in March section for the March issue. As we record this, it's March 11th. So there's a very timely list, right? You don't want it to be a month late. So, that
Correct.
Totally makes sense. But there's other reasons. And thank you for explaining that.
Absolutely. I want people to know how to use this publication. And 2 years later, people are still figuring that out, which is great. It's part of the journey. And that's why I appreciate getting to share some of this information today.
Michael, I think there's 25,000 people in Perrysburg at this time. How many people are you reaching with the Perrysburg Living Magazine?
It's hard to put an exact number on that, but I would say it's safe to say we are reaching potentially half of that number of people. And there's some give and take in there. I'll never be able to reach every single person in Perrysburg. However, that's where our readership comes in and is already helping. Again, as I already alluded to, people who are not getting the magazine are still seeing it because it's being shared. And I love the fact that in today's digital age, we have something tangible that people can hang on to, hold on to, and hand off to somebody else. And so a number of the people that have reached out about wanting to be added to our mailing list are people who have been very diligently, or through the help of somebody else, getting copies into their own hands through somebody else who's read it. And then maybe they get the next month's issue or the previous month's issue, something to that effect. But I would say, as far as our overall readership, the number of eyes that we can get on the magazine monthly, we're not too far off from about half of that number.
Congratulations on having an impact on half the town and growing. That's exciting.
Thank you. It excites me too. And I just want to continue to grow that the best that we can. And I'm thankful that a big component of that is the desire for people to want to be engaged with it. Again, it's very, very humbling. And so that's important to me, something I really take to heart. And that in of itself is something that will help Perrysburg Living reach more people as more people simply choose to want to be engaged with it. I'm excited by that.
Speaking of engaging and growing engagement, sometimes somebody that I know will take a picture of the cover of it and say, hey, look who's on the cover, because it's their friend or their neighbor, and they'll tag them. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a Facebook page for this, right?
That's correct. Because this is sort of a response to social media, and I call it social media in print. We purposely do not have even a website or a social media page. This is meant to just really uniquely exist as a physical publication. We want to celebrate who we are and what we do through our own pages rather than create another subsect. And I realize that in today's age, that's a little different, perhaps really different, but that's intentional. We want to keep Perrysburg Living as the vehicle that people can be in. And they didn't really want to create, again, another place that may invite, this never happens, right? But a place where someone might take an opportunity to say or do something that maybe isn't neighborly, or take an idea and run with it in a direction that wasn't intended. We want to really protect and safeguard the families who have submitted things, whether it's just their pet or a recipe, or they've actually shared their family story. We want to protect that through what print can actually do uniquely, which is stay within its own self. And so that is different in today's age, but it is an intentional choice. And that's more or less why we've made that choice.
There are so many choices that can be made nowadays. I respect your choice to keep it in print, but people are sharing that it's out there and that they're proud of their neighbors for making the cover and whatnot. So I just want you to know that you're kind of having an impact on social media, but it's mostly like, hey, look at this type of thing.
Oh, sure. And I love that. I mean, again, it's so exciting to see people be excited to recognize themselves or their friends or neighbors. And I certainly want to encourage people to do that as much as they want. Just as far as it starting from us, that's where we want to have this platform that exists and stay in the background of it as much as possible. And we just want the people of Perrysburg to be the voice, be the face, be the ones that are out there enjoying the opportunities that come about through the publication. So I do love to see that. I'm just not going to be the one who gets it started.
All right. Yeah, that's a very authentic thing, for somebody to take it upon themselves to take a picture and then share it. Well, congratulations on all of your success with this, your growing success, getting the word out about all these wholesome things that are in Perrysburg and creating family-friendly content. But is there anything about the Perrysburg Living Magazine that maybe somebody might not know that only you know from the background? What's a fact about the Perrysburg Living Magazine that is relatively unknown?
Oh, sure. Again, I kind of alluded to this, but I would say the most common question that we get or that I receive, again, I have random people I've never met who actually stop me sometimes and ask me questions, which is great. But the common question I get is, how do you choose the families for the cover? And the answer to that is actually that we don't. All the families that we have on the cover are through nominations. And so it is neighbors nominating neighbors. So we have no agenda whatsoever when it comes to the families that are on our cover. Any family who lives in Perrysburg can be on our cover, regardless of the family makeup, dynamics, their race, religion, backgrounds. We have no predisposed idea on what it should be. Again, I believe every family is awesome. Every family is special. And so, but people ask that all the time. Well, how did you pick this family, or why didn't you pick this family over that? And we simply didn't. We take the nominations as they come. Certainly there are families who get nominated by somebody who might say, hey, that's not for us. And we more than respect that. But typically a family will go, oh, well, that sounds kind of fun. Or the most common reaction is, well, why would we do that? We're not cool or we're not special. But when they actually sit down and write their story and think about all the things they've done, which we don't really do, we kind of take for granted all the things that we've done in our busy lives, they usually end up saying, well, we actually are pretty cool, or we've done some neat things. And it was nice to actually pause and think about it. And so what I would encourage anybody who is enjoying Perrysburg Living or wants to look for a way that they could support what we're doing is continue to send us nominations. We have a lot of families that are nominated that are sort of in the queue, so to speak, that will be coming to covers soon. But we want to embrace every kind of family that's out in our community without restriction. And I can't mean that more genuinely. And so if you feel that there's a family that you know that the community should celebrate, should know about, because either they're just super great people and you love them, or maybe they've done something special that we could be inspired by. We would love to get that nomination. And I will say this, even in response to what I just said, I think every family, and I mean this genuinely, is inspiring. I think when we had the opportunity to read about people that live amongst us in our community, even though they may think they're just sharing their day to day and it's normal to them, I guarantee there's something in there that someone else is going to find that they didn't consider. Maybe, I could have volunteered for that, or I took for granted that I have that ability, or I help that person. And if those kinds of dots of inspiration can just slowly percolate through seeing those families, that excites me. And I want people to know that all starts with them thinking of their neighbor and nominating them. And that's how we've met the families we've met to this point.
I love that answer, because that's not just informational about how you pick the families, but that's also like very an upbeat attitude to have towards every family, because we all do have a story. That's really cool to just point that out. I think that the ordinary over time can really be extraordinary.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And again, I have no problems with online social media platforms in and of themselves. But we don't go to those platforms because of the platforms. We go there because of the people and the places and the things that we recognize. And so that's really what Perrysburg Living as a publication is trying to do, is create a place where we can focus on those things and eliminate to the very best of our ability some of the distractions that might keep us from truly celebrating the great things that we were hoping to find.
Michael, if somebody had never seen Perrysburg Living Magazine before and they came across a copy, what's the number one thing that they need to look at?
I think what I would hope that they would consider or take in is that there's just a lot of awesome stuff here. I'm channeling my inner high school kid, right? What I want them to see is, starting with that family and then what's the pages behind it, there are great people, opportunities, businesses, ideas just waiting right here for anybody who's willing to take a look at them. And so when you come to a place like Perrysburg, Ohio, that is continuing to grow and grow, there is no shortage of opportunities. And those opportunities come to us in so many great ways. And so I hope what they see and what they find and come across, hope their takeaway is that I can't wait, whether it's the next issue of Perrysburg Living or something else, I can't wait to see what else is here. If this is one short glimpse for a month in what's in and around my community, what's next? What else is there? I hope that's the takeaway. I hope that's what they see when they catch us.
What I hear you saying is, when they open it, you hope that they find something that they didn't know before.
Absolutely. And perhaps it's even as simple as a fresh approach at something they thought they knew before. I think that's important too. We all drive by and see sometimes the same people and places every day, and just taking a little deeper look behind. To me, that's what's really exciting. And I hope when you dive through our pages that maybe, just maybe, you'll get a glimpse of some of that as well.
Perspective. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. I like things that make me think. Thank you for giving me something to think about. As I read these articles, somebody who has written one of these articles may have a different perspective from me. And that's cool. I like to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. How about you?
Yeah, likewise. My background is in education. I used to work with school music programs. My parents were teachers. That's part of my passion behind, for example, our expert contributor section. I love the fact that we can have trusted people who aren't trying to say buy from me. They want you to say learn from me. I want to teach you something. I want to show you something that can help you and your family. If you call me and I work with you, that'd be great. But I'd really just like to help you get some good information to make good decisions. So yes, that's a huge part for me of what we try to do every month, is just present great people that you can trust, and let's tap into their knowledge. So I couldn't agree more that I think the more we can learn, the more we enjoy life.
Love it. Great answer. Resonates with me totally. Now, I know that you've been doing this for 2 years now. So when is the official 2-year anniversary of the Perrysburg Living Magazine?
It's kind of hard to believe it, but it's coming up with our May edition. So our May 2024 edition will be the 2-year mark of Perrysburg Living. I don't think there's any looking back. I just am looking forward to continuing to grow this opportunity more and more. That's 24 families we've met. And as we alluded to the numbers earlier, we've got more to meet. So we have a mission here where we need to keep going and keep just finding the people that live amongst us and celebrating who they are for the people they are. But our 2-year anniversary is certainly a benchmark that has in some ways come so much more quickly than I ever imagined. And in some ways it's past 2 years. When I think through all the things that we've done, it's like anything. It's like, oh my goodness. In some ways it's felt like it's been 10 years. But that's really because there's just been so much happening and so many good elements to put together. So it's not because it's been laborious. It's been a labor of love, and just packing a lot in and looking at a lot of things over that time has been special. But my initial reaction is, oh my goodness, 2 years went by in a flash. I can't imagine what the next 2 or 5 or 10 is going to look like.
Michael, I wish you the best as you move forward with year number 3. Ending year number 2 and moving on to year number 3. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about yourself or the Perrysburg Living Magazine as we begin to wrap this up?
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to just share a little bit more about this. I try to be someone who's behind the scenes. My pictures in there as small as my friends and other people involved will let it be. I really just want to have this platform that celebrates the best of the community. And so I'm a small part of that. But again, I would just encourage people to, if you're not getting the publication, feel free to reach out and we'll do our best to get it to you. But if you are getting it, I would just ask you to continue to be as involved as you have. from your families to your pets to your interests or activities and hobbies. We create these pages and we put this out every month to celebrate you, Perrysburg. And so I couldn't be more genuine when I say that is what I get up excited to do every day. And I hope people continue to want to be engaged with that. And I'm thankful that we have the opportunity to just shine a light on the great things that are here.
Thank you for the work that you're doing with this. I think it's a great resource. I know I've said it before. And congratulations to not just you, but also your team. I know that you have a photographer who does the cover and you have somebody who helps with submissions. So would you like to say anything about your team?
Yeah, absolutely. I would be completely remiss if I didn't. So thank you for that. Yeah, Nyla, our photographer, is wonderful. She captures these just beautiful images of our family. They're very authentic pictures too. Everyone wants to smile and be pretty, but it's just them naturally being themselves, just smiling, looking at the camera, and just saying, "Hey, here we are." So her work is just a phenomenal part of what we do. Abby Kibler, who is our content coordinator, she takes submissions that people send in. So she's the one who's again, wrangling in all these pets and various animals that we're getting and everything else. She's the one who's interviewing and working with the families to write their stories. My designer, Sherry, she's the one who helps with the layout of the publication every month. We work together. She's handling things for our sponsors, like their ad design and just making sure that the look of the publication as it comes together, it's really critical to us that this just reflects the community as best as we can. We want people to be proud of the publication. We want them to look at it and feel that it's something that represents them the very best of our ability. And so we want it to be beautiful, colorful, exciting, and engaging. And that could not happen without Sherry's work. And again, the work of everybody, but that's pretty much the team. We're a lean crew, but we're passionate about what we do. We take it seriously, and we really take representing this community to heart.
Congratulations to you all. I'm sure that it probably took a little bit of, not trial and error. It probably took a little bit of time for you guys all to just make it look as seamless as what I see now. So for whatever you had to overcome to get the finished product that you have now, you're doing it right. And whatever struggles you had, I can barely see them because everything is like flawless now. This is a great publication.
Thank you. That means the world to me. Thank you so much. And again, I'm just grateful for everybody who works together on it, from our team to, again, truly the community itself. This is just us on pages every month. And the fact that it can come together this way, I think just shows what a special place Perrysburg is.
Keep up the good work. And thank you for being here on the Perrysburg podcast.
Thank you, Kim. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Thanks again to Michael Richardson for being my guest today on the Perrysburg Podcast, episode 41. I enjoy reading Perrysburg Living Magazine. Michael and his team do a great job of putting together a content-packed 32-page local magazine. It's colorful, the photography's great, and I learn something every time I read it. Oh, and I really enjoy the family spotlight, too. Last month, which was April of 2024, a family that I know was featured on the cover. The Newloves and the Neals have been friends for like a decade, and I was pleasantly surprised to see a young woman with autism grace the cover of this local magazine. Keep up the good work, Michael and team. You are doing a great job. I look forward to seeing what's in the May edition of Perrysburg Living Magazine. Thank you for listening to episode 41 of the Perrysburg Podcast. Please visit perrysburgpodcast.com to read the show notes. In the show notes, I have Michael's bio so you can learn a little bit more about the publisher, his email address, just in case you'd like to ask him to add you to his mailing list, a link to the Perrysburg Podcast episode 6, which mentioned Perrysburg Living Magazine as a source of information about Perrysburg, a link to the sign up for the Perrysburg Podcast's weekly newsletter, and more. Lots of links. Everything you need is on perrysburgpodcast.com. If you know someone who is new to Perrysburg or might like to hear my conversation with Michael, please share this episode with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Perrysburg Podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Thanks for listening today. I'll talk to you next week.